Salutations! I'm here to talk to you guys about the current event that I chose for my project, which is the Texas heartbeat ban, which was passed on September 1st, 2021. I chose this event because it has enormous implications for the rights and freedoms of women and is immensely relevant to the feminist movement today. Personally, it's very dear to me because it very literally and directly affects women's relationships with their own bodies and the way that we legislate them. The ban itself states that abortion is illegal in Texas after the 6th week of pregnancy, which is when a heartbeat can be detected from an unborn fetus. Because of the way that we measure weeks of pregnancy, most women have no idea that they're pregnant at this point. So after an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy can get a woman in huge legal trouble, as well as, due to its restrictive nature, even someone like an Uber driver who drives a woman to an abortion appointment after 6 weeks. In addition to just its very restrictive nature, the ban has had very controversial reception because it challenges the longstanding legal precedents of two different cases of abortion laws in the United States, 1973's Roe v. Wade and 1992's Casey v. Planned Parenthood, which both established that a woman, her right to abortion falls under her right to privacy per the 9th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. So I chose this project because I think that it is very glaringly obvious in this ban that many abortion laws target women who are poor and women of color, two categories that often overlap. That's a rant on systemic racism that we don't have time for today, but it's there. Angelica Casas for BBC News interviewed a woman named Bridget, who has volunteered for the Clinic Access Support System in Texas, driving patients to their abortion appointments. Bridget stated, quote, "This bill is targeting people who already do not have the resources necessary to get themselves to an appointment," unquote. Casas continued to say, quote, "That includes women of color from low-income homes who don't count on a support system from their families or partners," unquote. Casas did report that rights groups petitioned the Supreme Court to block the heartbeat law, but court justices ruled 5-4 against blocking the ban. The majority vote stated that the decision was not a determination or conclusion about whether or not the law was constitutional, so there is still room for a formal legal challenge of the heartbeat ban itself. So how do we respond to this is the question I think that we're left with. The United States has established abortion laws and established that women do have a right to privacy per our own Constitution, and yet this ban still passed. That brings me to the words of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. In 2019, Razia Iqbal of BBC News interviewed Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the New York Public Library, where Ruth Bader Ginsburg was awarded the Berggruen Prize for Philosophy and Culture. In this interview, Iqbal brought up the issue of abortion in the United States, pointing out that we are undergoing more and more restrictions the more time that passes between now and Roe v. Wade. She asked Ruth Bader Ginsburg how we can retain and now, in some places, regain the legal right to abortion. Obviously, this was before the ban, but I think the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg are still relevant. She said that women need to, quote, "care about it the way they did when many women didn't have access, didn't have a choice," unquote. She explained that women wanted to, quote, "control their own destiny," unquote. And that was the whole point of Roe v. Wade, was for women to be able to control their own bodies and control their own lives. Because we won Roe v. Wade, a lot of the feminist movement backed off the issue, and the pro-life movement became more organized and more aggressive, and that's why we're seeing more restrictive laws now. So I chose the format of poetry to respond not only to the Texas heartbeat ban itself, but to the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think that the first and second waves of the feminist movement were very strong and a lot more organized than the feminism we see today, which is sadly very lacking in inclusivity. Because a woman of means is able to travel to acquire an abortion, this law most directly affects women who are poor. So I wrote Tenderness and Rage, which is narrated by a woman revealed in the poem to have been raped and become pregnant as a result of her assault. Now, the abortion ban in Texas does not account for situations like this. If you were assaulted and get pregnant as a result, you can still not get an abortion after 6 weeks. The voice in the poem does lament her abuse, but ultimately responds to the crime committed against her with rage, which is something that I think women are often forbidden socially from feeling. I chose the medium of poetry because I wanted to very directly and verbally criticize the current feminist movement and its lack of empathy for women who are impoverished and for women of color. The feminist movement has always favored the wealthy white woman. It ignores the issues of trans men who can often still become pregnant and already face an enormous amount of pushback from their communities, society as a whole, even feminist women, and from the healthcare community. I think that if women are to achieve social and political equality, we simply have to care again. We have to care about trans women and trans men. We have to care about women of color and women in poverty. And we have to regain a sense of unity and achieve empathy in order to move forward. My poem is posted on the blog anchoredfeminism.wordpress.com. I am well out of time, so I won't read it. But if you all want to go to the blog, it is open to the public and is my response to the ban and the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think she understood how important it is that women regain the empathy that we had in the early 1900s and in the second wave feminist movement of the 1960s. And I hoped to communicate my own personal desire for it in the poetry I wrote for this project. Thank you.